Okay, let's recap. This plane had 54 flights on it when the motor died in flight. It came apart, amps spiked at over 130 amps. Then, shortly after that, everything went dead. It crashed to the ground. Upon recovering it, I found the PSU 12 volt feed dead. I found the 5 volt PSU feed at battery voltage and the vector dead. This is now the second vector and the fourth, I think, PSU I put back in this thing. None of the wiring has changed. I can't find any shorts. In the follow-up video, you'll see that I systematically connected one thing at a time, checking amperage and voltage, and we were all good. Finally plugged in both the camera and the VTX. Voltage was good. Then suddenly, boom, 12 volt feed died. At that point, it appears that it wiped the log memory. I had the logging set to always at 10 hertz. And now here we are. Looks like we got another bad vector. Uh, PSU current sensors reading 66 amps. 12 volt feed is dead. I'm at a complete loss. I've tried everything. Uh, hopefully, uh, hopefully you guys can figure out what's going on. Let me just run down the equipment if that helps. Okay, so hobby wing, platinum 100 amp ESC, 10 amp BEC rated at 20 burst. Dragon Link, large advanced receiver, high tech Metal Gear servos. We have a 1000 milliwatt VTX. Up front, I have a two Hobby Eagles, one on a pan tilt, the other one's a Runcam 2, connected to a three-way video switch. As you'll see in the following videos, the max amperage draw on the 12 volt side is about 500 milliamps. And interestingly enough, the cameras, the video switch, the VTX, the ESC all work perfectly. Receiver too. No problem. So again, same setup, same equipment, multiple PSU vector failures, no change in the wiring. Through the following tests, everything sat static on the bench, so there's no possibility of an intermittent short. During my tests, I checked the vector log for voltage, amperage, anything out of the unusual after each step, and nothing. Everything was good. Nothing even close to being out of spec. Up until a couple of minutes after we fired it up with the VTX and camera both plugged in, and then it all went bad again. Step 1. The vector's been flashed, logging's been set to always at 10 hertz. Nothing connected to the vector except for the PSU. I will power it up and let it run for a minute or so and then look at the data. Okay, next we have the ESC connected, battery leads only. Gonna power it up and go look at the data. Okay, moving right along. Now I've connected the bus, nothing else. So we have PSU, bus, and ESC battery. Okay, so far so good. I've now added the ESC signal and BEC power. Okay, so far everything's good. Current reading is what we would expect. I have now added the receiver connection. Again, everything looks good. Data looks good. Current is what would be expected. I've now added the left elevon servo. Again, everything looks good. I've added the right elevon servo. Again, everything looks good. I have now added the analog RSSI / backup power connector here. And I've also put a multimeter on the 12 volt feed from the PSU. If everything's good, next thing will be to start connecting 12 volt supply. Okay, I have now I've plugged in the VTX, powered the PSU, and connected the VTX. 12 volt feed is normal, and current reading is as expected. I have now connected the camera, and using a Y connector, the 12 volt feed, so that we can see what the voltage is. And now I'll power it up. 12 volt is 1191. We have camera. Current is 0.4 amps. Everything looks good. Okay, final test here. Everything's connected except for the UART connector for vector telemetry. Camera's up and running. Everything looks good so far. Transmitter is powered up. Again, 400 milliamps on the amperage. 6 plus volts receiver voltage. Switching cameras.
Camera 2, camera 3, camera 2, camera 1. Are you recording this?
Throttle up. Well, there you have it. 12 volt feed just failed. Okay. This is VTX. I take it back. Camera powered by a separate 12 volt BEC. I got 166 milliamps. Okay, 252 milliamps with the VTX powered on. Climbing slightly. 255. Let's see what happens. Okay, after several minutes, the VTX current seems to have stabilized around 252 milliamps. Okay, so we're back to cam and VTX plugged into the Vector. 12 volt supply being provided by the external BEC. Amperage on the 10 amp scale is 300 milliamps. On the 300 milliamp scale, I got 252 for the VTX, 166 for the cam, making it 418. Should be well within the capability of the PSU. Going back to the amperage, and I'm showing amperage at 66.4 amps. Obviously, there's no 66 amp load here. Okay, after a factory reset on the Vector, reload the config, repower, still same amperage on the 12 volts, cam and VTX. OSD showing 66.6 amps, and I'm getting a message: memory malfunction detected. So, after all this, we got a flashing red LED. I got no 12 volt power. The current sensor reads 66 volts sitting static like this.
Are you recording this?
Everything else seems to function correctly. I got throttle. I got Elevon. Stabilizer seems to be working. I'm at a loss.